talking about Edgar and Julio. We'll talk about the coaching staff. The Mariners did bring in Kevin Seitzer from the Atlanta Braves to take over the hitting coach position. There's no offensive coordinator this year, as well as bringing over Bobby Magallanes from the Braves as well as the assistant hitting coach. Um, but I think, and Britt agreed with me on this one when we started. The biggest news of all of this was that Edgar Martinez will stay on the staff in a hybrid role. Essentially, it just sounds like it means he's not going to travel. Keep him around home more, keep him around T-Mobile Park, which I think is the biggest thing. When the Mariners have had hitting struggles in the past, when I had less of a baseball mind, I mean, since I've started doing this, I obviously have to know more. I can't just be a fan and have fan knowledge. Some people do that. Sorry, I had to get that point across and be angry about that part. But if you look at the numbers when Edgar was the hitting coach here, I mean, they were pretty good. I mean, they weren't the best in the league each year, but they were a lot better than what we've seen. Um, and it was just so big, I'm sure, to have Edgar around for a guy like Julio and for some of the other guys. Randy was a guy who didn't necessarily bond with everybody when he got here first, and I can say that as someone who was around him in the clubhouse, but I'm sure Edgar will help over just another, American born player, right? So,
Definitely.
you know what I mean? I think that's such in an off season that's been so quiet, and for a team that hasn't gotten a lot of wins and bringing in coaches the last few years, I feel like that is a big win for them to. That's the dream scenario. I think we were been talking about that, or others were talking about it as the season wore down. Is he coming back next year? And it was probably only if he didn't have to travel, and that's likely what we got here. What do you um make of Edgar? And then I don't know how many thoughts you might have on Kevin over here.
My thoughts on Kevin are little to none.
Oh,
I am of the mind that hitting coaches don't matter as much as fans sometimes think they do. I think the Mariners pretty evidently needed to shake up their overall offensive approach and philosophy that they preached. I think Edgar brought that around, and I think he communicated it perhaps in a better way than had been communicated. I think that was seen, the difference was seen, and perhaps that the Mariners are taking a little bit of a different approach now towards their offensive control the zone. Um, I don't know that this hire of Seitzer is anything to get excited about. He's certainly a well respected individual. The Braves last year had a poor offensive year. They
yeah.
were also really, really hurt.
Yeah.
And I think it was just they decided to part ways. It was time. It happens. The coaching carousel is always turning and for a reason. So I completely agree. Edgar was the most important piece of that. I think them seeing that and recognizing that and saying, okay, let's look at how we've been approaching this and how can we do this differently and how can we communicate it differently. I think that's the most important thing. And if they keep on that path, knock on wood, I think we'll see the second half, second, third, last third Mariners
Sure.
more than that first half or first two thirds. Uh, yeah, it's all in the end going to start and end with Julio, really, if we're being completely honest. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter a whole lot of who else they hire on the hitting. Uh, Edgar seemed to be his guy. They got his guy back. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Again, you make points and it makes me think of things. I don't say it in jest either. So if you ever see me put it out there, I'm not making fun of it. Britt has a thing that she will say during these games where there's runners in scoring position and
Yes.
it's base hits are fine. And
Yes.
that didn't seem to be something that the Mariners were okay with.
Hmm.
Outside of that last third, what and you can tell me what you think about this or if you thought it as well. What's remarkable to me, or was in the moment, about the Mariners and bringing Edgar at the end of the year and Dan Wilson, was how things like was uh hitting the ball, driving the ball up the middle of the field, or in some of the more basic, at least to me, I thought they were basic. Um, like thought process about hitting were
Yeah.
emphasized, and I was like, what were you guys doing before? You weren't doing these things? Like, I think we saw sacrifice flies become more of a thing with the Mariners, and I was like, how is this? These are basic
Absolutely.
things. You,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying? I feel like there was so much
Absolutely.
that was Edgar slowing things down and being like, you
Hmm.
do not need to hit the ball into Lumen Field. Like we can be fine here. And Julio, I think, I'm sure if I look at, I have a subscription to like the stat head or whatever, but we can look at Julio's like sack fly numbers. I'm sure it goes way up at the end of the year
It did.
because
Yeah.
as someone who I love the scoring, I used to make fun of my friend for doing it, and now I score as many as I can. I didn't write that many sack flies at
I did
all,
not either.
right? So, you know, I just thought that was remarkable at the end of the season where whether it was from the players or talking to Dan pregame or postgame, how basic thought processes of hitting were things that seemed to work. It's like what were, as you said, they needed to get out of whatever the hell they were doing in the past, because I'm sure if you throw a few sack flies in 21, uh 23, and then this season, they make the playoffs all of those years. Am I wrong? Because you've come a game
No.
short in all of them, right? A few sack flies here. So
Hitting
yeah.
is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And the more complicated you make an
Ooh.
approach, the worse it's going to go.
Yeah.
And I'll I'll never forget, I think it was after the dreaded 54%
Oh.
uh, press conference, and Divish made a comment on, I'm not sure what podcast, it might have been a radio spot, that Jerry sometimes thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and
Oh, I remember that.
likes
Yeah.
to make sure people know that. And I wonder how much of that might
Hmm.
drip down a little bit
Huh.
into, we are the smartest people in the room and we can tackle analytics like no one else. You know what that
Yeah.
works really great for is pitching, and they do
Yep.
it so well. And a
Yep.
big part of that is they have Pete Woodworth to communicate that stuff. And everyone says he's an incredible communicator. You
Hmm.
know what being the smartest person in the room and looking at things too analytically is not good for is hitting. The simpler you can make it, the better, always, every time. So, um, if they can keep on with that approach, I feel encouraged, maybe naively, I'll admit,
Sure. Hope
perhaps
is
naively.
dangerous.
It is. But I think, yeah, Edgar is the most important part of all of that.
Yeah. No, I just feel like you said in that regard, pitching is will help you. Hitting. Well, that was the thing. Um, I remember when the news about Brant Brown being fired came about. A bunch of us went and talked to Mitch and Demo. And throughout the year, well, throughout the like weeks following that, we would talk to some of the different players. And since it's still somewhat relevant, and it's not like you can go to each stall and everybody's either there pregame or willing to talk about them. We kind of had to piece that together to get a general sense. It seemed like it worked for some guys with Brant Brown, and it didn't work for others.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that means it was too, like, oh, I almost swore it was too complicated. Like, so yeah, no, I mean, this has no importance. But at least when I stopped playing baseball, I could field really well. I was athletic. I couldn't hit because it got too complicated. Like there was just too much for me to think about. And then by the time we're gonna get up, we're standing. I have a bat. Hold on. this is gonna work.
We're
Um,
getting in full demonstration
by
mode.
the time that I was up at the plate, and like you say, like Divish says this too. Divish, okay, I'll use my one swear. Um,
Yes, yes,
the
I know where you're
Mariners
going with this.
have a lack of fucking talent, and like you said, the hitting coach can only do so much. This was also a discussion, and I can also use my bat for this. Once I get into the box,
Mhm.
I could be told everything about hitting. It doesn't matter if I don't either like if I don't put it into play, I don't. It's instinct at that point. I just had too much in my head, and so I'm just staring at a fastball inside, and then I'm done. I'm walking back. I'm like, well, maybe I should stick to soccer where I can just kick things, you know? So
Yeah,
yeah, I
thinking
mean,
is a hitter's worst enemy. You thinking is for practice and for the batting cage. You cannot be thinking in the box. And I do think the Mariners were preaching that. They were talking a lot about thinking about the count and
mm,
thinking about fielder positions and where the runners were. Where were they in the game? Were they behind how many runs? Were they up by a few runs? That's all fine and great. And I think that's great for pregame and between innings. If that's going with you into the box, it's an issue.
yep, yep. There were just too many times where it seemed like they were like, oh, why did he stare at that pitch? He probably was too in his head and he was thinking something else was coming,
Yep.
right?
Looking
So
fastball and you get a changeup.
and
It
get dicked by a
happens.
slider, you
Yep.
know. So yeah, no, I mean, I keep looking over. We did get not really a bomb. Michael Conforto has signed a 1 year, $17 million deal with the Dodgers. Who cares?
Okay.
Um, so I don't know. I think they're fully out on Soto. I think that's been obvious. They're also supposedly close to getting Teoscar back. Um,
Hmm.
but oh yeah, I was going to talk a little about Seitzer. Yeah, no, I mean Atlanta struggled, and to your point, they were banged up. Um, over the course of the year. If we're looking at his resume, as these lovely press releases do, I mean, the Mariners PR staff do a great job. I'm not giving them any crap. I've got a lovely note from Alex Mayer right over there, actually. Um,
He's the best.
oh, Alex is great. Sometimes I see him like our stuff in the off season. I'm like, oh, I'm being perceived. Oh God. My one of my proudest moments of this last season was writing the Kirby the video game's birthday stat for him, and he used it and he credited us. And I was like,
That's
yes.
awesome.
What was interesting to me is, you have this struggle of 2024 for the Braves offense, and they part ways, obviously. Seitzer was named Baseball America's Coach of the Year in 2023 for helping the Atlanta offense to a MLB record tying 307 home runs, an MLB record 501 slug. Um, but I mean, obviously, when you've got an Acuna and a Matt Olson, and
Oh my gosh.
we could go down the list,
Generational talents.
right? Yeah, money machine works there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not too much. I know. I believe it's Carson Vitale's gone. I think it was
Yes.
your field coordinator. So Lewis Boyd takes that spot. Seventh year in the organization. Had previously, where was he earlier? Oh, he'd make his way throughout the organization. Eric Young. I mean, you want to talk all about Manny Acta and his great sends from third base? Because now we've got Eric Young Jr. moving up to first base. Third year as a major league coach, six in coaching and player development. He's also responsible, also responsible for base running. Eric Young Jr. was with the ball club around the time, I think around when Bliss and Rivas were around. Kate, we saw him around, and we were like, "Who is this guy? Why is he here? Is a coach leaving?"
Hmm.
Um, and so it kind of made sense to me when he got. It was towards the end of the year. I remember that, and it might have been um that they were thinking about this move that they've done where Manny Acta, I believe, is the bench coach now. I have it here.
Yeah.
Um, and Christopher Negron is over at third. Um, I know a lot of the coaching stuff was in motion already because I had oh, I don't know if I should say that part. I was told that Dan Wilson was at the ballpark several days before Service was fired after the Dodgers series. So it seemed like things were in motion and
Yeah.
they were gearing up for it. So it seemed like this might have already been Eric Young Jr. thing in place. So yeah, Eric Young takes over at first base. Um, I think did I skip past it? I think I did. Manny Acta returns, yeah, bench coach. He held that position, in 2018 and 2019. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the moving around of those? I mean, I know some people had thoughts about Manny Sens, but
Not really. As someone who has coached plenty of third base, I am in no position to judge. I understand. I have questioned some as well at times. And there have been other times that he has sent a guy and I'm yelling at my TV and it works out. That's baseball, right? I the most important thing in my mind is Pete Woodworth and Perry Hill returning.
yep,
I think that is really important. I'll give Chris Negron a shout out as well. He's reports are saying he's been pursued
yes,
pretty heavily for coaching positions, manager positions, which from everything we've heard makes a lot of sense. The guys really like him. He connects really well. He's a good communicator. So I'm happy to see Chris Negron back as well, even if it's on the third base side. I do think that that's a win. Mm, Ultimately, as long as Perry and Woody are there, though, the rest doesn't matter too much in my mind.
yeah. And I know that it was interesting in the chaos that was Services fired because that was a day Britt likes to encourage me to take days off. I don't do that.
Self care
That
is
was a day off.
important.
And then Scott got fired, and it was no longer a day off. And that was a discussion that I know I talked to Divish about. I was like, do you think that he's going to be able to keep Dan Wilson? Obviously, Dan's liked to run the organization. I mean, we had seen him in the press box because he was working with Root. The banter that he and Aaron would have during his pregame presser since he
Oh,
became a
good.
manager was fun. I wish I could record those, but I don't know if either of them want that. Was are you going to keep essentially like you're saying the two, big fish of this coaching staff in Perry and Pete, and it seems to be like I don't think there's any issue in doing that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not too much to write home about because then we're getting super nerdy about the other coaches. Um, but yeah, no, like you said, the hitting coach, you can only do so much. Um, so in that regard, I mean, it's fine until, we get into the season and then maybe it's not. That might be more of the player aspect than the law. As I said, I'm not going to say it again because I don't want to add too many of those in there. That should wrap up this first edition of this. I don't know. We'll come up with a name. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we started at a time where we might actually get some stuff Mariners related, and since the winter meetings happen, Jerry and Justin have a lot to do in terms
Hmm.
of how they're gonna, hopefully upgrade this offense. Um, and we'll see if it means any of their arms go. But I mean, I'm sure we'll have a lot of rumors at least to speak about, if not like substantial reports and actual things taking place. And I've got a few different ideas we can talk about. Like, you talk about this offense struggling and how the Mariners are adding every infield spot except for shortstop. Is a JP Crawford bounce back coming back? Or is the 2023 season that he had an outlier and he's just not that good offensively? Other things that we'll talk about, I'm sure. So until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well. Um, I hope passing bombs soon, and do whatever you
Please.
can to make
I need to
today.
get I need to get the soda news out of my system.
Well, I hate that we say that at the end because that probably gets everything else going, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yep. Fingers
get the
crossed.
big fish out of the way, knock the domino. Yeah, till we see you again, take care of yourselves and do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about the Zebs?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. Huh. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.
Hey everybody, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Jen. What is Rough and Tumble for Circling Seattle Sports?
Your home. The home for Circling Seattle Sports.
I like it. Let's do one more take, just a little bit. Mix it up some.
Hey there everybody, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Jen. Where's the home of Circling Seattle Sports?
Right here at Rough and Tumble.
Hi, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
glad to join you here from Rough and Tumble, home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love
Okay.
Up that out, Chuck. Okay, I'm ready.
Hello everybody, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble. Start over.
I forgot what I was saying.
I think you waved in the first one.
We did at the
Yeah.
end.
Oh, at the end. Okay, that's what. Okay, cool.
You just couldn't see our hands.
And now it looks like you're holding your hands, so that's kind of weird.
Here's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually have a little room to come this way too.
Okay.
Just no further than that.
Yes, Lieutenant Dan.
And go.
Oh, I think this time I'll ask you, what's the home? Where?
Yeah, say, where's the home of Circling Seattle Sports?
Okay.
And I'll be like, right here at Rough and Tumble.
Hand good?
Yeah.
Yeah, your other hand. Put your fingers together just a little bit more. Not like that. There you go. It was just like.
Clawing at me.
Okay, I'm still recording, so go ahead.
Okay.
Start when you're ready.